Now me. Hi, I'm Brittany. We are going to be talking about one of my favorite things these days, which is the C of sameness. And if you're using AI, you probably already know what I'm talking about. And the M dash is definitely going to be trolled in this presentation as a spoiler alert. So what does it mean? I have heard some speakers. There are lots of titles asking you to get down with the algorithm, which I'm here for. Like, we need that. We need to be able to show up in people's feeds. We want to make sure that people are curious and they can find us, but that is not what this is. So we're going to kind of do the opposite today. All the SEO folks in the room, I'm sorry in advance, but it just has to be said. We need to break out of some patterns. So I'm going to tell you why the algorithm and AI is slowly drowning you. But I'm going to throw you a lifeline. We have some tasks, some audits here for you too. But I really just want this to be about encouraging and inspiring you. So if you walk away with those two things, that is a win for me. This presentation really talks a lot about how AI is creating invisible brands. And raise your hand if your KPI this quarter was to make your brand invisible. Probably not. No hands. Come on, you guys. You said you would play along. Raise your hand if that was your KPI. No. Okay. Fantastic. And yet everyone kept posting. So it's like we all know something's up. Our gut is telling us something is wrong, and yet we just keep doing the same things, probably because we're really not talking about how to do anything different yet. We're just like the cat. It's a little bit like Instagram meets reality, if you will. What AI promised was efficiency, better content, a competitive edge. We all love to put our faces in the memes and like it spits out and you're in outer space with like your 3 core items. If you're me, it's like the dog, the laptop, and the coffee. Spoiler alert, that was all 3 of everybody else's in my LinkedIn feed, so that's cool. What it really gave us, though, was scale. We definitely need quantity, but we also need quality. And then finally, what it really delivered was competitive camouflage. We all started to look and feel the same. And if you look and feel the same, you're not memorable. And if you're not memorable, you are a commodity. People don't think about you. They don't seek you out. They're not telling their friends, peers, you look the same as your competition, which is a bad thing, as we all know as marketers. So it definitely made it cheaper, but it didn't make it memorable. Fun fact, there are 170,000 words in the English language, at least according to the latest Merriam-Webster published, but most brands use the same 50 words. Probably less, if we're being honest. And they all look a little something like innovative, results-driven, best in class, elevated. Everyone in my office knows if you have elevated in your copy, it's like immediately just the hook, you're out. So what do we do about it? By the way, I love AI. Huge advocate of AI. We have been using ChatGPT in our agency for 3.5, maybe pushing 4 years. We were one of the early adopters. In fact, we're just moving to Claude, similar to the rest of the world. And so I'm not up here saying AI is a bad thing. I think that it is absolutely necessary because if you're in marketing, the likelihood that you're being asked to do about 18 things that are not part of your job title is pretty high. So there is lots of crossover. We know that you need more hands, right? Like they're not giving you bodies, so how do we do more with less? And I think that is the trap that we have fallen into. AI didn't create the problem, right? It just created the visibility problem. This is one of about 15 screenshots I took in my inbox. So if you email me after this, please don't title it "Quick Question," because there are lots of them. By the way, most of these are not quick. They're like we need an hour of your time. I'm like, absolutely not, no one's getting an hour of my time. But it created a stream where we just sort of lost the specialness, like we lost the sparkle, right? There's no uniqueness anymore because it's averaging the internet. And when it averages the internet, it gives you the average, and then you become the average of all things floating around, which makes you average. And none of us want to be average. We want to be special. We want people to think about our brand. It made it possible to hide in plain sight. I love this quote because it just feels so much more obvious, right? It's like we're creating graphics and we're giving them unique prompts. We are uploading the data. Hopefully you have, all your brand guidelines, your tone of voice, and yet it still continues to spit out the same things over and over. So now that we're all on board, we know there's a problem, right? We know that your LinkedIn feed looks horrendous because M-dashes are everywhere. The copy looks the same. It's so generic. Even me, I think, writing this presentation and putting together thoughts around how do I want to make this interesting and useful, more importantly, right? And the copy, it just shredded. It spits out something that you would expect to see on Marketers 101, and none of us are that right now. So today I want to do 3 things with you. First, we want to diagnose why brands became invisible. The second is we want to observe what the brands with real cultural gravity are doing differently. That is a coin term. You'll learn to love it, I swear. And then the third, I'm going to give you a framework you can hand over to your team on Monday. So there is a payoff, I swear, just hang in there. So every invisible brand has at least one of these issues, and most have all 3. I speak from experience. I have worked prior to opening and owning an agency for 10 years on the brand side of things for about 10 years, and I have been in the shoes of brand marketers, of franchisees, where things are just given to you and then you have to try and make them your own. I've been in licensing. I've been in private equity. Forget trying to be special there. It's like, show me your P&L. The end. And so by the end of this, I would just challenge you to think about which one of these buckets, or maybe it's all 3, is our attention point. Because in overcoming that, I'm going to give you some steps of hopefully how to inspire you to think differently. So reason 1, how we are all becoming a sea of sameness. We don't really know who we are. Your product is not your brand. Your service is not your brand. I know this is Marketing 101. A lot of this is going to feel familiar, but because of the way AI is designed and set up now, and even if you're prompting it appropriately, right, it can still get lost in the transaction of the conversation. So knowing what you sell is not the same as knowing who you are. More on that. AI doesn't strip your brand voice, it exposes whether you have one or not. And if you don't, even if you do, there needs to be checks and balances, right? And so once you start getting into prompts, into the feed, there has to be a moment in time where you go back to, is this the same 50 words that we're using as everyone else? How is this distinguished? And then finally, it's not just a content problem, it's an identity problem. AI just made it visible, right? And so it's a little bit of a gut check of what's happening within your brand, within your department, within your agency. We've got some examples for you here and show you exactly what that means. So Nakery Beauty is one of our clients. They are actually based in Clearwater, Florida. The woman you see here is the owner and founder, she and her husband. She has been on HSN for over 30 years. Originally, she sold for Estee Lauder. About 4 years ago, she decided, she and her husband, they wanted to open a company that serviced the women that she was listening to for over 30 years complain on air about their skincare issues. And we're not talking about like, I have wrinkles on my face. They have things like vaginal wipes, okay? They get really in there. the way I'm saying the brand. They identified very quickly that they couldn't just show up as a generic brand, right? Like they knew who they were talking to. It was an underserved market. They actually started fueling the group and taking the identity on, and Liz specifically, to make sure that they were speaking to them and not at them. Because if they showed up in the feed, like AI would have you show up as a generic skincare brand, universally made, right? It doesn't hit. It doesn't resonate. It's not shareable. It's not special. People just turn away. You could change the logo, and it could be any other product or brand. So what did they do? They really leaned in. This is their mission statement on their website. I'm not usually into reading slides, but I think this is good enough just to say out loud, so bear with me. Nakery Beauty was born listening to women just like you. Tell me your biggest skincare and wellness concerns and why they didn't feel or look their best. For over 30 years, I heard the same story. No one was talking about what really changes as we age. The collagen loss, the crepey skin, the hormonal shifts, the daily aches, the lack of sleep, all things we quietly deal with as our bodies evolve. So I decided to change that. That says it all, right? And everything they produce and the content that they provide really embodies the identity. It embodies the tone of voice. They are decisive. They own who they stand for. That's what makes them different. That's the only thing, quite frankly, because it is such a saturated industry. Raise your hand if you're in a super saturated industry. Yeah, the struggle is real. It's like, how many shades of blue can we find for e-commerce and software? Reason number 2, you are afraid to be who you are. So step 1, we have to know, right? Step 2, we actually have to go do it. Quite frankly, I find this is the hardest one. I think in a vacuum, we can sort of collectively decide this is who we are, this is who we want to be, but the execution of that tends to be harder. And really, this is where AI can really screw things up. So brands don't disappear because they're small. They disappear because they're safe. I think oftentimes we think about this, and I'll talk about this, but as a budget issue, right? Because I find that if you can outspend your competitor, the assumption is you win. We really revel in this idea around stats that directly influence reach and transaction, which is a good thing. We need conversion. We want conversion. But that doesn't necessarily reinforce identity, which reinforces loyalty, which reinforces advocacy, right? It doesn't reinforce word of mouth marketing. It doesn't reinforce referral marketing. It just really makes you driven to make the next sale, which is a very short-term goal, and it's why you burn out. Most marketing departments aren't optimized for impact, they're optimized for approval. Ugh, I feel this in my bones. The content calendar rat race, right? The campaign calendar rat race, the planning rat race can be exhausting because it never ends. And it really sucks a lot of the creativity that a lot of us have, even when you start to go back to Chat or Claude or Gemini, because the same ideas that are coming to you are coming to your competitors. And that is tricky because we're feeding it, right? We're training it, we're giving it the intel and the knowledge and the ideas around it. So it's always a starting point, right? It's never the finish line. Approval-driven marketing is the fast lane to forgettable. If you have a boss, their time is limited, you know, right? And trying to get in front of them to get approvals in and of itself is difficult enough. So I know I'm asking for like the world here, which is why I'm suggesting that as we consider how we think about content and identity and really having the courage to stay true to that, you think about things a little differently in what you're making too. This is a agency. How many of you are agency people? Any? Okay, a couple. Cool. Even if you're not agency, this is fun. This agency is called Attention Seeker. They're actually a New Zealand-based company. Have any of you heard of them? Yeah, One. Okay, cool. Then you'll like this. So I don't know how. I got to following these people a couple of years ago, and it was, as you can see here, when they had just hit 400 TikTok followers. They are close to 1 million now, right? And this is not that long ago. So they committed to the bit. And I think that more than anything, they defined and were not scared of who they were, right? Personality is not a liability. Not having one is. Joni, who you'll see here, at the time was their marketing, I think maybe intern. Like, I think she started as an intern. Shout out to interns, they're the best. What's up, Shailene? And she just started posting, fearless. In fact, she's about to be on our podcast, and I'm so excited. She originally, I'm going to play this for you. She originally was posting content like the rest of us, which looked and sounded like this.
We went from 35 followers to 10,000 followers in around 2 months, purely because we prioritize quantity over quality. Before I started working here, I was posting around 2 to 3 times a week on my personal account. I was caught up in perfectionism, and it was holding up my TikTok output. When I started here, the tendency here stands at me a metric of posting 10 TikToks a day. To achieve this, I definitely had to let perfectionism go. I had to learn how to make an efficient creative process and then further refine my videos through feedback. I can't just guess what my audience is going to engage with. It's the data and the repetition that drives improvement. So go do the reps and just post. And that is today's Taz Talk.
Okay, I mean, this is fine, right? Like, she's just in there, just being herself, just doing her thing. She's cute, she's personable. You may stay for the whole thing, and it is good background, because what I'm about to show you hopefully plays first off. It's buffering. Click in the black area. Okay. Okay, sweet, thank you. Dan's the man. First, a warning, there is some adult language, I'm sorry, but it's not just for the sake of cussing. They stand by their personality. That is why I think this is a great example. On the left here, if you look them up on TikTok, I highly recommend you do, like, the doom scrolling tonight for your hotel stay will be absolutely fabulous. You can see that this is one of their playlists. At the bottom, it's Fit Check, and that's kind of how they started. Raise your hand if you, like, remember that trend. Taz Talks, it's her just kind of like shouting people out. Then it's her boss's name is Stan, okay? He's a bald guy, typical New Zealander, cheeky, funny, witty, says lots of cuss words. So the whole playlist is hashtag get Stan to shake ass. That is her playlist. And they did a whole series around it, okay? Then it's party time, right? They have made the culture of their organization a personality, and they stand by it. You can see in the middle here, this is just for funsies. We asked her to be on our podcast. She said yes. But once again, reinforcing that your brand is the sparkle. It is the uniqueness that you bring to the table. AI did not write this, right? It's me, just a fangirl, asking another fangirl to be on her agency podcast. Maybe you can see this one. It's our agency director, because we're both obsessed with this whole feed, who then said, Joni, I will shave my head if you come on the pod. She responded, ha ha, ha 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 ha, and now she's coming. So, if you're ever scared to just get out there, this is a reason not to. All right, I'm going to play a couple of these. I'm sorry, earmuffs, but, like, it's worth it. I promise.
Day one of convincing my boss to start doing TikTok dance songs. So I kind of feel like our TikTok's stale, and it's not really giving anymore. So I was wondering, we kind of go Charlie D'Amelio style, like, you know, maybe give TikTok dancing a try.
I know you got it.
No, but you haven't even tried it yet. Like, I can teach you. It'll be really good. But I can teach you.
Okay, there's a whole series. It is completely unhinged. I tried to show you the most clean one, right? And I encourage you to go look at all of them because there is a reason why this is a pattern disruption. She decided for the agency this was going to be their approach to growing.
I got you an iPhone 14 Pro. I'm trying to show you the reasons why you're going to get Team KK rise and new phone.
I can read that.
Okay. Your team doesn't build a pay rise because you have these targets, but not expect.
Me to be good at my job.
No, this is your growth star. It's getting a bit stagnated here, so I feel like maybe you're just not putting in enough effort. The new pay rise is at 500,000 followers, and I'm so glad it's so far away. I would don't have to pay you enough pay rise.
She hit it in less than a year.
Why do you need a new phone? So we have a perfectly good Samsung Ultra, like $50,000 worth of cameras, but you're still broke. You refuse to use anything but an iPhone, and you have no idea how to use your camera. Hashtag fake videographer. So anyway, I got you an iPhone 14 Pro. Oh shit.
Why are you crying?
Because I just got you a $2,000 phone, that's why you fucking should start crying, motherfucker.
Sorry.
That's right. That's fine.
This is almost worth the salary that I paid you.
I'd like to thank Void Star-Lord.
Without that kind of support, I definitely wouldn't have gone into this. And will now be sending you some feedbacks. But I have to just reiterate that I am grateful. Because this was great. I'm gonna go cry about it.
Alright, thanks. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
There's one more, I swear, this is fast. There's a point.
Reason you need to propose to play. You want to keep it?
She literally made a TikTok about how he needed to propose to his girlfriend, that they've been together for 10 years, and she had enough.
I'm back. I can also be a wall dude. I'm giving you a chance for me to not split your head. Like, I don't when people stop asking when they're going to propose. Look how happy she looks. I will salary sacrifice so we can buy a ring. On the condition that you let me park outside for a month. I don't know how this works, dude. I will help with anything wedding related. If I'm my own wedding, I'm not for your topic, and I can carve up her shapes on the dance floor.
Okay, you get the point. They committed to the bit, right? And it's an agency, and you can scroll on their pages, and there's not a single case study. They obviously do social media well, might I add. And as their accounts grew, you could watch the agency grow. But they decided, like, could AI have ever spit out a script or even run a show for this? Ultimately, they decided to lean into their courage and culture. And then they started creating content around it, whether she did it intentionally or not, right? And so I think my point to you is that courage in marketing isn't a creative virtue, right? It's a competitive one. And so when you decide to stay the course, really cool things can happen. Reason number 3, you are selling without storytelling. Also, Dan, I have no countdown, so I'm just up here like cooking. Tell me when I'm... Okay, people follow stories. They tolerate promotions. What brands say? Buy now, limited time offer, download this, learn more. This is not memorable. Like, we test these because they convert, and AI can certainly tell you what CTAs to put in your copy or put in your web funnel, right? It can tell you what the end card should say, but ultimately it's the copy, the content, the creative, the approach, the identity, the commitment, the courage, the creativity that people will remember. They remember a feeling, right? Like, that was cool, even though I can't like tell you the thing about it that was cool. They remember a moment, or that was interesting. Like, you want to share it. You want someone else to go back to it. They remember a personality. That's funny, right? Anybody know who this guy is? He was just in Tampa, and I saw him, and he was so good. By the way, I can't tell you a single joke that he told me, but it was funny, and I laughed. And I will tell you, you should also go see him. It was brilliant. And finally, it's a belief, right? That, like, that's smart. And when you think about somebody in your life that you think, okay, that's the smartest person I know, it's not that you know that they know the Pythagorean theory, right? Like, it's not that they're a rocket scientist and you know the equation that they studied to get their PhD. You just know. And it's because it's their personality, right? It's who they are. It's how they show up consistently. And more importantly, it's memorable. So I think we get into, the marketer's sort of rat race here of SEO and content copy and how do we get found in the rankings. And yes, all of that is important. But before we ever go there, you go to your own brain, right? So your brain is the first search engine, and I think sometimes we forget that. So this isn't like a plug, but it sort of is a plug. We have our podcast, and it's great, and you should watch and follow. But one of the folks that we had on was this brilliant woman, Amanda, who started the Tampa International Airport's social channels as you now know them. Who is from Tampa? Any of you guys live here? Okay, so then you're definitely following the airport. For those of you who don't live there, pull your phones out, follow them. It's unhinged, quite frankly. And they were one of the first to show up in a way that made it, I won't even say acceptable, because I think people were like, what is happening here? She was a creative genius behind it, and she came on and she said to us, as if it was something that we could all just like show up and do. She said, well, I just started telling people that, we had to find ways for the airport to act like the Grammys. I'm like, ma'am, that's really not, like, you're in transportation here. We're really, people show up to your page to complain that their flight is not on time, you lost their bag, they're upset with the airline, like the bathrooms are out of toilet paper, you name it, right? And she absolutely flipped that switch from a complaint hotline to identity. She looked at the travelers. She started talking to people. She went out with her own iPhone and started talking to travelers and just asking them, like, where are you going? What are you up to? How's your day, right? And these irreverent conversations and little nuggets of creativity that she started finding in travelers became the bit. And over time, she started seeking them out, posting them on their channels. It caught steam. Leadership was like, we don't really know what's happening here, but we like it because unlike anything we've done before, this is working, which is a life philosophy. They stopped talking about themselves. They started talking about people and stories that they recognized, travelers, employees, and moments. They found the human thread. They continued to pull it all the way through. And finally, they claimed their traveler's identity as their own. So here, it wasn't really a content strategy. She didn't say, okay, we're going to set out to make 4 content pillars, and one of them is going to be the huge flamingo that we just put in the middle of our airport. No, it was like, we're just going to troll our followers and see how they respond. They just made national headlines from a single social media post that asked people to stop wearing their pajamas when they travel. People thought it was serious. Like, they got upset. People were like, no, we're wearing our pajamas. You can't. I'm like, ooh, okay, we hit a nerve here. And then they leaned in, and she did it again. So when you find a nerve, it's clear that you have created a memorable approach, right? Like, AI can't do that. You have to listen, you have to observe, you really have to lean into sort of the culture of what's happening around you. The good news is none of these are budget problems. I feel like a lot of our client conversations come up against, oh, I have a timer, thank you, you're the best. Come up against like, well, we don't have money to do that. And I think sometimes that's where AI gets pulled back into the conversation, right? Because it's cheap. You can just show up, you prompt it, spit something out, you're like, sweet, I don't have to do anything else, we're done. I don't have to spend any more money, we don't have to go hire RFP an agency or figure out the new script or the talent or how we're gonna approvals, legal, like none of that. Identity, courage, context, these are the things that people are looking for from your brand. Subconsciously, right? They're not like, where's the courage? But if you forget what you stand for and you start creating content that doesn't align in your lane of who you are and who you're known for, it throws people. So here is my currency of this entire presentation. What are we doing here? Conversation. Cultural gravity is your brand's FYP, For You page. It is a vortex, right? Gravity attracts. It pulls people in. You don't have to go find them. You're not like cherry picking. I'm all for paid ads. We should do that, right? But ultimately, the thing that keeps the engine running is your identity. It's to be discovered. It's to allow people to feel like, oh, they get me, right? It's not forced. It's not hide and go seek. It is surprise and delight. It's when the right person finds you, the reaction isn't, oh, that's interesting. It's like, finally, I found the thing. I needed this thing. How do they know? How do they know that? They know that about me. They know that I have that same problem, that same struggle, right? So I think as we start to consider how we craft identity and content, right, a lot of it has to do with it's not a pillar. We really have to back up upstream from all of our tactics because AI is only going to spit out what you put in. And if we never consider what sits on top of all of that, you're going to continue to get the same thing everyone else is. It's simply a physics equation. So this presentation isn't about like, step 1, do this, step 2, do this. Again, I'm inspiring, I'm encouraging you. However, this is my one slide. I would highly recommend in whatever tool you're using, because at this point, right, they're all kind of like, it's a race to see who's gonna win. It's the AI identity audit. I would go in and I would prompt it with these things. What does this brand stand for clearly? What is it avoiding saying? What could a competitor say that this brand could not? And finally, who would feel genuinely seen by this brand versus merely targeted? The last one is big, right? Because I think when we get into the idea and the premise of targeting, we go straight to demographics, psychographics, not pain points, challenges. What's interesting? What are they looking for? How do we meet them where they are, right? So what comes back to you is your identity audit. That is your golden ticket. That is what you should be using as guardrails, pre-prompts, right? Like, hey, I'm a marketing strategist. This is my identity audit. I need you to run this piece of content through it. Otherwise, we fall right back into the sea of sameness because it's going to spit out exactly what your competitors are getting. So to do this, we have to make decisions, 4 of them specifically. Conveniently, they all start with C. Every culturally relevant brand has made one of these decisions. Because without a brand, you are a product, and that means you are a commodity, and people buy commodities based on price. And if you are not the lowest cost price, they will not remember you, and they will not buy from you, and they will not recommend you, and they will not return to you. And it sucks to have to sell on price. It is so uninteresting. So we're going to talk about the 4 C's. Clarity, define exactly who you are. Courage, be willing to show it. Content, it's yellow because this is usually where people start before they define the rest of them. which is create narratives people follow. And then finally, credibility, give them reasons to believe. And that is the sum of all the things above it. So if your brand changed its channels, logos, would anyone notice? Clarity isn't a tagline, it is an identity reckoning. This guy here started, 5 minutes, okay, I can do it. This guy here started a company called subjectline.com. You're probably using it already. He's actually spoken at multiple digital summits. He has been on our podcast, as you can see. I love him so much because he is absolutely irreverent. If you go to his website, he knows this. This is not, I would tell Jay this if he was here. It's terrible. It is like Comic Sans. It is highlighter pink with highlighter green. It's like, are you trying? But he is trying because it's pattern disruption, and he continues to show up like that. He is wholly himself. His presentations look like a toddler made them. No shade, once again, because you get up and you're like, oh, never seen a slide like this before. The point here is culture and how to embody it. These two guys, Tampa natives, Omar and Nick, for those of you who are familiar with college hunks hauling junk, originally their tagline was "Move the World," which I just really love. It just, for a lot of reasons, right? It makes sense. But they were just two college kids who started their company moving people's junk out of their dorm rooms, and they started making money. And then they started hiring more friends, and they were all like muscly and hot, and their sorority sisters were like, go to these guys, they got muscles, so move your stuff. And it stuck. He actually told me, my mom came up with the title. I'm like, interesting, okay. Well, we like that. They started as themselves, and they never let up. They absolutely owned their own identity. They made it irreverent. They leaned into their brand. They weren't scared to be funny. And the one thing he said, though, was that they embraced their brand identity, but they got serious about the business. And I think that's where a lot of people cannot hold this tension. I'm also not suggesting, by the way, everyone needs to be stand-up comic or you have to post unhinged, chaotic TikToks to be successful. What I am saying is that you have to know your lane and own it and stay there, right? And that's what they did really, really successfully. You don't have to be provocative, you just have to be willing. So who is the hero of your last 10 posts? If the answer is always you could be the problem. Why? Because AI will immediately go to content, storylines, scripts, run of shows specifically about your product or service. It's not a human. It doesn't have a soul. It can't tell us how we're unique, right? How we're different. It turns your audience into a press release archive. Boring. So one of our, she's actually a dear friend. I just love her. Danielle started as a high school teacher. She has a PR agency. She has obviously been on Mel Robbins. In fact, recently featured as like one of the 2025 wrap-ups. She started a business and wrote a book about adult female friendships and why they're important. And I remember years ago having conversations with her, and she was telling me how hard it was. Like, she knew how difficult this was because she had experienced it in her own life, and anytime she talked to another woman, this was a thing for her. And then women of women, and she, in her own circle, she knew it, right in her gut, she just knew it. But it wasn't going anywhere. She couldn't figure out how to monetize it. People didn't quite understand that you can also have a friendship coach, and that's what she was doing. She wanted to show up like people's executive coach or people's industry coach or people's, not therapist, but mentor. And there was space for this. And so when I think about what she did, I also think about Apple and how back in the day, for all of the marketers in the room who have ever watched one of Steve Jobs' presentations, it was always like, I don't want to deliver what the consumer tells us they want, because let's be honest, like a lot of us just don't know what we want, myself included, until you give it to me. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely needed that. And that's what she kept seeing. So when we fall into the trap of we're just going to make things because it's what people tell us we want, I think we miss a real opportunity to be irreverent and to think differently. So credibility, finally, is what consistency looks like from the outside. It's not proof points, right? It's not accumulated overnight. It is the culmination of doing all of these things well. I got 30 seconds left, you guys. This went by like so fast. We're gonna keep going. Cultural gravity is not a campaign. It's what happens when you do all 4 of these things successfully. The pattern here, though, is to start in a process, right? Don't arrive at the content on AI, because you will get slop. It is to go through the great strategy, which is really the anchor. It's what keeps you rooted in where you are and who you are. Then you go into your operating system. Then we pull in AI because it's cheap and it's fast and it will help you get there quicker, but only if you already know, right? Like, where are we headed? Cultural relevance here is really sort of your boat in the sea of sameness. It's what allows you to get from where you are to where the real party is, because it's much harder to invite your audience into your ecosystem than show up where they already are. So find your commitment, stay in your lane. We work with DoorDash. We helped them expand into an audience that was their highest earning, their most propensity to be loyal, which is weird because Gen Z is not, which was gamers. We didn't serve ads. We didn't create campaign paid around it. We created communities. We started posting on TikTok. We made Discord channels. We showed up at gaming conferences. We put on a esports tournament, bracket style. We made red bucket hats that showed up on Megan Thee Stallion's stage, twerking from one of the influencers. That was not paid. And this is all because we decided, right, to show up where they were, to really own the culture of the audience that we were after. Commitment to batch, test, and learn. This is the ugliest ad you've ever seen, right? We do it on purpose because it's one of the ways to stop people from scrolling. It's like the old, we're looking for a graphic designer in Paint with Comic Sans. But people respond to the headline, and that's sometimes what you need as you're riffing using AI as a starting point. Put $5 behind this, see what happens. It probably hits. Finally, build for resonance, not just for reach. Commit to who you are, right? Reach is an indicator. Resonance is a reason to believe to buy. This is one of our clients. They are a nonprofit that helps veterans at risk. They post, because all of their team are veterans, it's also a Christian-based foundation, scripture around what their influences are for the week. It's brilliant. People love it. People show up. They share it. They like it. They save it. The gut check question is, if you remove your logo and your product from your last campaign, would anyone know who it is? AI can't solve that. It just makes it worse. Here's your operating system. This is the one slide. Take a picture, bring it back. It's great. These are all the checkpoints, right? Clarity, courage, content, credibility. Find your lane, stay in it, batch, test, and learn, build for resonance, and do what you say you would do. People love it when you do what you say you would do. It's no different with a brand. I'm skipping. We're over. It's over. Stop letting AI sand off your edges. That's the sea of sameness, and your brand is swimming in it. That's it. Go build something worth orbiting. Thank you, guys. Nope, we're done. It's all good. If you have questions, I'm staying. Come ask.